Okay, so we're going to go over the structure a little bit more now and start talking about adding tags to the page. So this first line here, I think we already mentioned this, but this first line, the doc type, is required by W3C standards, and so we tell the reader that we're doing an HTML document, and we let the browser know what type of XHTML we're using. So in this case, we're using XHTML 1.1, and browsers need to know this information because if people are building standards compliant browsers, they need to know how to interpret your code based on the standard that you're using. And you always have the HTML. You open it and close it. So the way that a tag works is it opens and closes. So you always have a less than, greater than to start a tag. And then you always close the tag when you're done with it with a / symbol. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying, hey, I'm starting an HTML document. I'm going to do some coding or markup, in HTML. And at the end of the page, you always close the HTML to tell the browser that you're done with the markup that you were going to do. So it's an opening tag when it doesn't have the / saying this is where it starts, and the / says this is where it ends. So this just says I'm going to make an HTML document, and the web address that's in there actually just takes you out to a, who knows, I thought I had it already up, takes you out to a web page that links you over. This is the right page, for some reason it's not loaded. Takes you out to the standards for the different types of HTML. So every web page is going to have a head section. So you can see I'm starting the head section and I am / closing the head section. And notice that I've indented it so that it looks like it's inside of the document. So in general, you want to do indentation in a way that makes it clear to the reader when something is inside of something else, and that would be the general expectation with all of your coding this term. So the head section is inside of the HTML document. So it's been indented by hitting the tab button. It's been indented one over to the right. And the head section contains information about the web page, but it doesn't contain anything that's displayed on the web page. So in this case, we've got a meta tag. And all a meta tag is information about information. So this particular meta tag is required by W3 standards for XHTML 1.1. You need to tell the web browser what character set you're using, and the default character set in general is going to be UTF-8. And all the UTF-8 character set is, if you go over, thought I already had it up. That's annoying. If you do UTF character set and just bang over to, say, Wikipedia, what you'll see is it's just a numeric encoding for text. And so you're telling the web browser what the default numeric encoding is for text. This set of numbers means this. This set of numbers means this, so on and so forth. So you have to include that in the web page, although in general UTF-8 is the default. The title tag, you notice here's the title, and then there's the corresponding close to title tag. This is just the title of your web page. This is the only thing in the head section that displays in the web browser. So if I go to my homework 1 folder and I click on my index page and pull it up in a web browser, up here you see on the tab it says an HTML standard template, and that should correspond to what's in the title tag here. It says an HTML standard template. So this is going to be what you put in here for the title is going to be what shows up on this tab. And if Google parses your web page, when you Google something, that's going to be the title that goes with the Google result. You know, if you Google happy squirrel, and then scroll down. These titles that show up here are what the coder put into the title tag. So it's important that the title is done well, because part of search engines working correctly is parsing that title and identifying whether the title corresponds to something that somebody's interested in. So the head section just contains information about the web page. It doesn't contain anything that displays on the web page. The body of the web page is what is displayed. So if you type something in here, so if we type, for example, hello world, which is the usual thing to type the first time you do any coding, and then we save this result. So what can we do? Control save on this and pop the web page open and refresh it. So the Control R to refresh it. Now the hello world is displaying on the web page itself. So the things between the body and the close body tag, the end of the body, are what are displayed in the main part of the page. It's not typical just to type something into the body of the page, though. Usually you put elements in the page, tags in the page that define the structure of the web page. So and elements are going to have two forms. They're going to be elements, and elements have attributes, and those attributes can be set equal to specific values that you put in double quotes, and an element can have many attributes. And the two forms are, you either have elements that contain stuff, and then you close the element when you are done. Sublime auto closes things for you. So you either have elements, an element is just some piece of the structure of the page, and the element will have attributes that you can look up and modify. You'll have stuff between the opening and closing tag. So this is one form that you can have. And the other the only other form is having an element that doesn't contain anything. So you have an element, and the element may also have attributes. These are just characteristics that can be changed with the correct markup. And some elements, they don't contain things, so they close themselves. So every element is going to have a closing. It's either going to have its own closing tag, or it's going to be what's called a self-closing tag. And what I want to do is hide this. So in HTML, to hide something, you do a less than symbol, exclamation mark, double dash. And this is how you hide things. And when you hide things, they won't show up in the web browser. And then I want to go down to where I'm done hiding, and I do two dashes and a greater than sign, and everything there is going to be hidden. So one example is the paragraph tag. So we have paragraph, and if I hit enter when it's doing the code prompt in Sublime, it'll automatically give me a closing tag, and then you can put stuff inside of paragraphs. So I kick it down. So my paragraph is indented because it's inside of the body. It needs to be to the right of the body tag, and then inside of the paragraph I can type stuff. And if I save, Control S, and then go back to my web browser and hit Control R to refresh, the stuff inside the paragraph shows up. A lot of times when you're doing web programming, what you need is dummy text. And so you don't want to actually have to type content. Sometimes you just need dummy text as you're styling a web page to begin with. And it's common to use lorem ipsum, the Latin auto-generated text. So in Sublime, I can type lorem and then hit tab, and lorem is one of those snippets. So when I hit tab, it'll auto-generate some fake text for me. You can also go to websites to do this. So if you go to the lorem ipsum website, they actually have, this is the installer. They actually have, if you type lorem ipsum generator, there's websites that will generate lorem ipsum for you. You tell them how many paragraphs words, etc. that you want and what you want it to start with, and when you hit generate, it's going to generate that much lorem ipsum, which you can then just copy and paste into your editor. I like using the auto generator. So let's say I want 2 paragraphs of dummy text. Now I can just copy this paragraph and paste it in, and I have a second paragraph. And if I do Control Save and then open my browser here back up, Control Refresh, those 2 paragraphs of dummy text are going to show up. And you can see there's spacing before and after those paragraphs. And that's because the paragraph tag is what's called a block level element. And in HTML, a block level element, like the paragraph tag, it defines a rectangle on the screen. You might not see the rectangle, but it's defined by a rectangle. So when I type the paragraph tag in, it actually constructs a full rectangle. And then there's 2 things associated with a block level element and the border or rectangle that it forms. You have margin, which you can have margin top, bottom, left, and right. That's the spacing above and to the sides of the block level element. And then you have padding, and padding is the space between the inside of the element and whatever else is inside of it. So anything inside of a block level element, there will be padding between it and the rectangle, and there will be margin that you can define on the outside of that rectangle. So a block level element is what a paragraph tag is. And then I said, so that's this type of structure. So I said the other type of structure is a self-closing tag. So for example, between these 2 paragraphs, I could type in a horizontal rule, and all a horizontal rule is a line. I'm going to hit Control Save and refresh that page, and now you can see that there's a line between the 2 paragraphs. It doesn't need to hold anything, it's just a line, so it gets to close itself. It's a self-closing tag. And I also identified that tags, which just define elements on the page, the structure of the page, they can have attributes that can be changed. So for example, anytime you're working with a tag, all you need to do is Google for its attributes. So for example, the horizontal ruler HR tag, that horizontal line, you can change attributes. What it can have: color, shading, size, which is height, width. Those are all things that can be defined within the tag. And paragraphs also have attributes that you can change the appearance of the paragraph. So an attribute is just the characteristics of the tag, the things that you can change. So for example, if I go back into Sublime and I say width equals, let's do a percent of the total page, so we'll let's say 80%, and you always put the attribute value, you have the attribute and the value goes in double quotes. And so if I save this, and bring my browser back up, I'm not doing this very efficiently, now the line is only 80% of the page width. So in the next video we'll go over how to validate code to make sure that it is accurate, and then we'll move into a video where we go through looking at a series of elements that we can use.